as the head football coach at Arizona State. Michelle Gardner now joins us, covers ASU, and has been with us on a couple of occasions before. Michelle, I guess it was just a matter of time. Can we go over, first of all, there's a video of Herm Edwards coming off the field with both the president and also Ray Anderson there. They didn't fire him at that moment, did they?
No. That was kind of, I think we need to meet type of quick conversation. So no, it actually happened, obviously Sunday. That was kind of the time frame.
Why did they wait till the season to do this when, the last time we had you on the show, we kind of said, this is probably coming?
Well, all indications are, and what we're kind of hearing, and it looks like, and we asked Ray Anderson yesterday about that, why not after last season when they underachieved last season? And this whole thing was kind of still looming. And he said, well, 8-5 is not terrible. We went to a bowl game. We were hoping some things would change, things like the undisciplined play, most notably. And then when it became apparent that things weren't going to change, then we felt we needed to move into a new direction. Now, I'm reading into that too, that the NCAA investigation wasn't necessarily a factor in Herm being fired, because if that really was, then they would have got rid of him when they got rid of all the other coaches. Mm-hmm. So it seems that to most of us that cover the team, this is more about the way they've played and the fact that the undisciplined nature of the play, it just didn't, especially losing to Eastern Michigan, my God. And when we were in the elevator going down to the post-game press conference, we, the media horde, are saying, this is a firing type of game. This is a Scott Frost loses to a bad team all over again. And that we weren't surprised. We thought maybe they might wait till the bye week, but their bye week comes after a gauntlet of teams. They now have Utah, USC, and Washington back to back to back before that bye week. So it could be a bloodbath before then.
Yeah, the Pac-12 looking good is terrible news for Arizona State right now, with all these teams that are looking pretty nice after 3 weeks. How would you describe, or how do you think the Herm Edwards era at Arizona State will be remembered?
I think unfortunately it's going to be all about what's happened in the last year and a half. And when Herm got hired, obviously it was a move that was scrutinized by many. He had some nice wins right out of the box. He started recruiting California, and his coaches started recruiting California and did very well in his second years there. And they kind of were making steady progress, and it looked like everything was headed in the right direction. And then I hate to blame COVID, but then COVID hit. And obviously you don't have all those violations if you don't have COVID. And, that year they played 4 games, and, you had a month between the first and the second game. And, and then last year they underachieved with 20 returning starters. So it just kind of seems like things have steamrolled over them in the last year and a half.
Is Ray Anderson's job in trouble?
Most of us seem to think so, just because there have been some things not even related to the football program that would lead everybody to believe that his job could be on the line. And obviously, maybe that's the bad thing about hiring your good friend. If it doesn't work out and it blows up in your face like this has, it's not a good look. But there are some other things, and that's probably another discussion for another day, as far as things in the Ray Anderson tenure that would lead everybody to believe that his job is in jeopardy. I think there's a whole lot hinging on what hire they now make.
Michelle, is one of those things hinging the future of conference expansion and the future of the Pac-12, and the fact that now that the LA schools are gone, maybe the school that's in the Phoenix Metroplex needs to make more of a stamp than they are?
I don't think necessarily. I think they need to bring in somebody that can kind of stabilize the program. And today we had a press conference with Sean Iguana, who is the running backs coach, who will be the interim coach. And I'll tell you what, he struck all the right chords. I mean, he hit all the high notes, said everything that probably the fan base wanted to hear, but it also came off as very sincere. and he teared up a couple times talking about how much this opportunity meant to him. And he definitely, sometimes you can get a measure for if a guy's just saying what the public wants to hear and the fan base wants to hear, but there was definitely an air of sincerity about him that resonated with all of us that was in attendance.
Michelle, outside of the NCAA aspect of this, what do you think are the biggest questions a potential candidate will have or should have about where Arizona State sits currently?
Well, I think it's tough sledding to get a good pool of applicants when you've got a possible NCAA, the investigation / infraction / maybe probation coming down the pike. I don't know what kind of pool of applicants you're going to hire, in wake of that. Now, Anderson said yesterday that he definitely thinks there needs to be a younger coach possibly that's more in tune with the current landscape of college sports, as in the transfer portal, NIL. And maybe those things Herm kind of was out of touch with and just not very familiar with, maybe didn't want to deal with, knowing that it's not like he was going to be the coach for the long haul. His contract ran through 24, but we all know that he wasn't going to be a long-term coach for this program. So maybe he didn't divest himself and really, embrace those things like he should have. So Anderson was saying maybe it's a new coach that's in tune with those things that's the best fit for this program.
Aguano is the one now who becomes the interim coach. He's young. He's a former high school coach. I think he's young. And obviously was hired because he could help some recruiting as well. Can you give us any background on him, or is this just temporary?
You know what? Anderson said that he will be given every opportunity to win this job. And when you look at what happened at Washington State last year, that's exactly what happened. Jake Dickert won that job with what he did in the last games. So Anderson said that Sean will be given that opportunity. When he talked today, he talked about how grateful he was for Herm giving him a chance and bringing him in, and how this was bittersweet for him because it's at the expense of his friend that he's getting this opportunity. But, again, depending on what kind of pool of applicants you get, maybe he's the perfect guy, assuming that they can kind of restore order and finish in some kind of respectable manner. And let's say they can clean up the discipline play and the team plays with passion. The team plays with some pride. I think those things are going to go a long way.
Herm Edwards is an incredibly positive human being, and we saw him as a head coach in the NFL, the play he made as a player. And we had him on. We've had him on the show. He seems to be very inspirational. Did his personality change at all under the fire the last year and a half?
Not particularly. It's hard to say where kind of the whole thing kind of changed. Like I said, I think when things started steamrolling and getting bad, then he just wasn't able to resolve it. I think Herm was, first of all, he is a great person. Like for us, the media, he's always great to deal with. He's returned my calls in a prompt manner, and the man is in demand. I have nothing but good things to say from him from a personal standpoint. I think he's a good guy, and I think he really deeply cares about his players. There are just some little things that kind of made it hard for, I think, the school to keep him in place. Now, I'll give you one good example. It just seemed like when it came to accountability, he didn't necessarily seem to be accountable himself. Now, maybe this is a pro thing, and when you've got pro players, and let's say you go out and you have all these penalties and undisciplined play, maybe it is more on the players because, you're paid professionals. You've been doing this your whole life, NFL players, 15 years or whatever. But it's different when you're talking about kids. So when we ask them about the undisciplined play and the penalties, and we get remarks like, well, the coaches can only coach. It's the players out there that are playing. Yeah, there just didn't seem to be any accountability for his part in when things were going wrong, type of thing. That's just kind of one perspective. And again, maybe it's the difference between coaching in college and coaching at the professional level. And then he just seemed to be out of touch with some things. For example, when it came to talking about injuries, now the first game of the year, they lost an offensive lineman, Joey Ramos, to I think a broken ankle. He got hurt in the first game, and after the game, Herm says, well, Joey's going to be fine, lineman, and, he'll, so, and then 2 days later, he's telling us he's out for the season and he is having surgery that week. So I don't think it was necessarily a thing like he was trying to deceive us. I just think he was out of touch, maybe talking before he had all the facts, that type of thing. And then you go back, and I don't know how many of your listeners actually kind of know what happened. So at the end of the first half of the game on Saturday, ASU gets the ball back. They're down 10 and a minute and a half or so left. And they end up with a 3rd and 6, and they complete about a 5-yard pass, and it's 4th and 1. And there's 12, 13 seconds left, and Herm calls timeout. And we're looking at each other like, what the heck is that all about? Like, why are they calling timeout to send the punter on the field? They could have just let the clock run out and go into the locker room and regroup. And he said, well, I thought we had the timeout. I thought we had the first down, so we were going to get in a couple more plays. We were hurrying to get in a couple more plays, and one of the reporters, well, were you really hurrying? Because you got to delay a game to start the drive. Like, things like that. It's just, and again, it's hard because I like Herm personally. He's great for us, the media, to deal with. But there just seemed to be some disconnects when it came to situations like this.
Good stuff, Michelle. Glad we had you on. Thank you so much. Always great insight. Michelle Gardner, Arizona Republic, covering ASU and also the Herm Edwards gone and the Sundevils as they move on. This is Sikkim 365 Radio, 365 Sports, and David Helm.